Good morning, everybody. No, good afternoon, I'm sorry. Still on West Coast time. Thanks for coming along. I think you all know who I am. Normally it's Michael Curlock who gives you an introduction to our PDAC luncheon, our Vice President of Investor Relations. And Michael's only son is graduating from high school today, so I gave him a leave pass. I said, I'll try and be Michael. I won't do the job as well, but I'll try. We have a few other people from MAG. Everyone knows Dr. Peter Megaw. He'll be talking today. Up the back we have Dr. Lex Lambeck, who's the Chief Geologist and Project Manager at our exciting new awesome deer trail property. Next to him is Tom Eckert, who's external government relations based in Mexico City for us. We have a new CFO, well, I won't call him new, new CFO joined us, Fausto Di Trapini. I think a number of people know him from the industry. Very good reputation and a lot of experience with producing companies which were emerging Tier 1 silver producers. So it was a good fit for Fausto to join us. We have Robert Houle over here, who is a consultant giving us great advice at Larder Lake. I'm very pleased to acknowledge Chief June here today. Thank you for coming. From the Abitibi Anabi, I think, when it was first introduced to us by Carly, said just Abitibi amazing. So that might be a new name for you to consider later on. So I don't think I've missed anyone. If I have, call out. Who? Oh, Nate. Oh, my God. And then also from Larder Lake we have Nate Tribble, who's our VP of Exploration, ably assisted by Daniela Marcoux next to him. Thank you, Peter. All right, so emerging Tier 1 silver producer. As usual, we'll be giving forward-looking statements today. And as usual, I'll say what I normally say, that MAG Silver has had a history since 2003 of turning forward-looking statements into facts. We're very fortunate that we partner with Fresnillo at the Juanicipio project, and we work together with them on their sustainability initiatives. They are well regarded in the mining industry in terms of their CSR. You can see they score very well, but more importantly, they do really good things on the ground with the local community, environmental protection, etc. At Deer Trail, we're doing our own thing, and I think we've made some really good impact at Deer Trail, and we'll follow that up at Larder Lake as well. So for us this year, this is the year of cash flow. You can see already, during the first quarter of this year, we've made substantial cash from side stream production, putting our development material and a small amount of stoping material through the Fresnillo plants. We will be commissioning the plant here in the middle of the year. I just came back from Mexico last week. I spent all day underground. I looked into the power situation as best as I can. I'm not an electrical engineer or a power engineer, but things are looking pretty good for us to start to get connected. One of the 3 substations involved in the connection has now been energised and is online and available. So it's a process. Can't really pin a date down right now, but all of the physical work's been done, other than one router that's being commissioned in Germany now and will fly out. So we're looking good for plugging in and getting going here middle of the year. Middle of the year means end of June, fingers crossed, but it is looking good. We will ramp up to 85 to 90% of nameplate of the 4,000 tonnes per day by the end of the year. Fresnillo, the operator, have been milling this same material since 2008 in their Sasito plant. We've been milling actual Valdocones material through both the Fresnillo and the Sasito mill for almost 2 years now. So we have a very good understanding of how this material mills, how it reacts metallurgically, and so we're very confident of achieving this ramp-up target by the end of the year. Emerging Tier 1 silver producers starting to make a lot of cash. People are seeing cash coming. When this plant comes on, it's going to ooze cash flow. Juanicipio is still very much an exploration property. We've only explored 5% of the surface area of the property. And look what we've got. So I think this is the video. And if I click again, does it run? All right. So a picture tells 1,000 words. I don't know how many a video does. This is us flying in towards the two portals that take us underground down to the Valdocones vein system. You can see the mine infrastructure here, almost complete. And here's some recent core that's come up from infill and step-out drilling. Here's some of the faces in development that we're mining. Some of this is running 6,000 grams per tonne of silver across the whole face. It's a remarkable deposit. And this is the material that we're crushing on surface and then taking to the two Fresnillo plants at the moment. Just remarkable. If you look at the money we're making here, the production profile, the most important thing about all this, that high-grade deposit is real. The grade is there. Big focus on safety, COVID awareness. Like in Mexico, I was there for 3 days, wore a mask everywhere, all the time. There's a lot of reference in here to what Fresnillo do with regards to ESG. A lot of focus, obviously, in Mexico on water, GHG. Health and safety is a big priority for us now as we're getting underground and established mine. And we're going to come through and go underground here now. The stockpile that you can see here, that's the material that is going across to the plants and making that wonderful cash flow for us. The project's self-funded for all of this year. In fact, we're building cash as well as self-funding in Mexico. As we go underground, you see we've done about 50 kilometres of development now. We've developed down to the complete strike length of the mineralisation. This shows the drilling of Valdocones back in our 2017 PEA. The green holes show the infill and very intense drilling up here, also complemented with channel sampling, which has given us the confirmation of the grade. There's been high-grade deposits, so when people have gone to mine them, they haven't been high-grade. Luckily, this is high-grade. And we have more. As we started to do that deeper drilling, we had to step the drills out. We came out wider. We found more veins. The parallel structures, the anticipata, pre-anticipata. We've just found another one. We've stopped calling it Valdocones. We're now calling it Valdocones vein system because any permeable structure here will be mineralised. It's just a matter of drilling them and finding them. And here's poor old Juanicipio out here, the original discovery, 1 kilometre away, extremely high grade. We haven't even touched that since, 2005. So it's a remarkable mineralised system. And then 3 years ago, first time in 500 years of mining in this prolific area, we find structures going the opposite, oblique to the known east-northwest trending structures. So really remarkable mineralisation. And there's an element of being fortunate to have Fresnillo as the operator here because they've mined these systems for 140 years. I mean, this is beautiful. And this is what we're seeing in the plant. We're seeing monthly grades of 500, 600, as high as 700 grams per tonne of silver. That's over a kilo per tonne of silver on an equivalent basis. And the infrastructure is built to last because this is a generational asset. So I don't know how many people here have been underground, but you usually get bumped around in the car and whatever. You're going down a highway. And here's our long hole stope. It's downcast drilling. They're doing this very effectively. They've got very effective on raise bores now, so we can reticulate air through the system. You can see the raise bores in here complementing these major 2 ventilation shafts from underground. So we've got really good air down deep in the mine now. Guess what? The productivity's gone up. It's a much more pleasant place to work than it was a year ago. So it's looking good. And ultimately, we haven't finished this job yet, but we have a conveyor from the mine, from the crusher, coming out to the surface. There's about 180 metres to be done. And then we daylight out here where we have the process plant. Which you can see here, we've got a high-grade stockpile built here of plus 500 gram per tonne material. This is our what we call low grade, which means less than 500 grams per tonne material. Average silver grade in the business is about 150 grams per tonne. This is dated. This has got a second lift on it now, so this is quite substantial. We come up from the stockpiles from these stockpiles into a covered stockpile to minimise dust generation. That material then goes into the grinding circuit in here. And you can see in this inset, you can see the progress we've made since 2021. We come through the grinding circuit. There's a flotation circuit in here. There's filtration, and then the cash flow goes out the door in trucks to smelters about 300 kilometres away. Very impressive. This is massive because of the head grade. Right? This is a massive installation. It's all been run with water now completely. It's been what they call punch listed, and all that's been fixed. This thing's ready to go. We just need the juice to turn those big mills. The juice comes in along this line into what is the Juanicipio substation, and then it's distributed out from this electrical distribution centre to site. As I said, we have enough electricity to enable us to run everything other than the grinding mills, and we've done that. So the water you can see in the tanks here, that's from commissioning the circuit. This is the long-term, we call it the number 2 tailing cell under construction. We've actually completed an initial cell that's going to give us about 18 months of mine life, cell 1. And this is the water from commissioning sitting in here. We're starting to pump that back. We actually take water from the nearby, just up here, Fresnillo town sewage facility. We take the wastewater from there and we use that in the plant. And this is the water from pre-commissioning in here. So we're ready to go. And pretty excited when that'll happen, because you can see the cash we've generated by sticking a little bit of material on the side through the operators' adjacent plants. Imagine what it's going to be like when we get on the real deal with new technology to give us even better recoveries. Anyone who talks to you at PDAC is going to tell you their share price is a good buy right now. Right? We are trading at a developer premium. Despite making $46 million of profit in the first quarter. And when that plant kicks in here mid-year, we are going to make a bucket load of cash. And that's not in our share price. So I can look you in the eye and say, our share price is a good buy right now. Wish I wasn't blacked out. Bloody governance. Anyway, so just as a summary, we're very well positioned cash. We've got $52 million of cash, plus what we're generating in the joint venture. And as I said, the project now is self-funding. It's all good. High margin, lots of good stuff happening here with commissioning, but don't forget this. Only 5% of the property explored. Number of analysts in the room here, a number of analysts who have been to site in the room here. And they give us really good coverage, understand the assets. So if you ever want to do more, a deeper dive, there's a great resource here for people to use. Here's our shareholder register, our Fresnillo largest shareholder, and then we have a list of blue chip institutions who have been in MAG for a long time, waiting for the switch to get flicked. The Fresnillo Silver District, the preeminent silver district in the world. 1 of every 10 ounces of silver ever made comes from this area in Mexico. Down here, we see a list of our forward-looking statements being turned into facts. This will continue to grow on this property. This is the joint venture ground, surrounded by the Fresnillo tenements in the area. This just shows, here's the plant that we saw in the video just to the north. We own this freehold land here. Here's the joint venture ground. This is the Valdocones vein system now, and you can see it runs across the border here. It becomes Herias, which is the mainstay of the Saucedo operation, which for a number of years was the world's largest silver producer. This is the distal end of this system. If you're not a geologist, what it means is the good stuff's here. And we're seeing that now. Great depth of operating experience in this area by Fresnillo, who have been there for 140 years. Silver's been mined here for over 500. This is the resource statement from the PEA. We're updating our technical report now, so we're including drilling that we've done from 2017 till recently. So you'll see, the tonnage numbers change here. The grade's going to be the same, but as I said, with what we've seen through processing, with what we've seen through channel sampling, we have a very good correlation now between this grade predicted in the geological model and what we're actually seeing in real life. And this is the real exciting part about the Juanicipio project. Yeah, making a bucket load of money and all that's good stuff and giving it back to shareholders is our intention because we can't spend it all. That's one story. But the real story is there's more to come. This is the only part of the joint venture that we've done in the exploration drilling. And we've just started on a new target that Peter's liked since 2003. And if I can speak for you, like that target out there equally as much as you like that Juanicipio one that you hit on hole 1. So we've just started drilling out there and we'll see how it goes. What makes Valdakoni so special is the red arrow. The red arrow is what every geologist wants to find in their career. The source, the fluid upwelling zone, where the metals came from deeper in the earth to get to a place where they're mineable. Which is why I knew I'd hit the wrong bloody button. Anyway, which is why any structure here will be mineralised. And I'm trying to hit the... this is the Valdocones upwelling zone, but we have a very good understanding now that there's probably more upwelling zones on the joint venture ground surrounding this volcanic centre. And as I said, we've just started to drill this one. Whenever we drill here, we find stuff. And we'll keep doing that because that's where we've built and where we're running the mine. We have permit applications in place down here now. So it's going to be a very exciting exploration story as we go forward. So as a summary, we're coming online now. We've made great cash with the plant not operating. We're going to make a lot more when that plant starts operating. We're going to drill. We hope to continue to expand the resource base around Juanicipio, around Valdocones, and we're going to be excited to see what we find as we start to drill out at Sessantoni. So that's it for Juanicipio. I'd like to hand over to Lex now. As I mentioned, Lex comes to us very well credentialed. Lots of CRD experience working with Peter for a number of years. PhD. Unfortunately, you've got to listen to another Australian accent. I'm really sorry about that. A little bit, not a lot. So, Lex, over to you, mate. He's the Chief Geologist, Project Manager, Deer Trail.
What's the advance?
So that's to go forward.
Okay.
And that's the pointer.
Okay.
And I don't know how to go backwards if you go too far like this.
Righto. Well, thanks for the introduction, George. I'm Dr. Lex Lambeck, and I've been involved with Deer Trail now for the last 4 years, and very exciting to give you an update on that. And prior to my time, I've been working with Peter Megaw for the last 10, 12 years in Mexico based on CRD work. So this is great to be applying some of the Mexican models up here in the state of Utah. So this is just one of the historic slides that Peter's gone through before. That skipped a slide already, I think. I know, slightly different order. Okay, so phase 1 drilling that we went through, which was completed very successfully. We drilled 3 holes, and the idea of that first phase was to locate that red wall formation. That's a clean limestone that sits below everything that's been drilled historically, which is a very dirty, erratic limestone, and that's what historically was mined. And historically the mineralisation was very non-laterally continuous. In at 1 minute, gone the next, spend all your money trying to get to the next pod. But now we've located the red wall at depth for the first time on the property, so that's very exciting. And then while we were doing that, we also did some active mapping underground and looking at the historic drill core. And with that, we're able to predict where these feeder systems from the historic mine were projecting down into the red wall. And we've been able to get pretty close to those feeders now and getting down into the red wall. So as a result of that careful, detailed work, we've been able to find mineralisation well below the historic drilling. So it's a very exciting phase, and that was just in the first 3 holes. So the big thing to look, we've seen this CRD checklist discussed many times by Peter, but the big thing that we've done here, again, is finding the top of that carbonate sequence, the red wall formation. We now know it exists. And since we found the top, we know we've drilled down through it in sections. We've got 300 metres of it. And so we've got plenty of room to grow. And in the process of doing that, we've found multiple mineralisation styles and alteration styles. So we think I'm really excited by this. And that's only from the first 3 holes. So we've got big ticks there straight away. So these results here have been released previously, but that was from phase 1. But now under phase 2, we're really, accurately targeting our holes to get the geometry right, to trace those feeder systems that we previously identified and get them right down into the red wall formation where we're expecting them to hopefully blow out. And it's then finding that mineralisation in the red wall formation, which is our current goal at the moment. And then obviously when we find it, we'll offset it with further holes. And you can see straight away here, you've got some pretty good grades here from the first 3 holes. And that's not even in the red wall formation yet. So with phase 2 ongoing right at this moment, we've got major drilling on site, and that drilling is presently going. We've also been working a lot in the last 3 years on the regional work, and that's consolidating the whole property, which hasn't been consolidated for 50 plus years. We now have got control over the entire property, which allows us to give it a big picture approach. And we've covered that area with a lot more modern day geochemistry, assay data, XRF data, TerraSpec data. And we're able to then develop up what I'm going to take you through, a hub and spoke model. So here we have that central zone. We're going to use the Kennecott Bingham Canyon mine as an example. That porphyry system is the hot part. It's the copper system. It's the hot part of the fluid. And then as things cool out laterally to the sides, that's where you get the mantos building up to, and that's what we're referring to as the spokes. With this central porphyry hub, and then you have these quite high-grade lead, zinc, silver spokes coming off them, and we believe we've got that same application at the Deer Trail mine. And we're using this same methodology. So at Deer Trail, we actually believe we've got 2 potential hubs, the Deer Trail porphyry system and potentially the Brigham porphyry system. And we're now, we're currently drilling out here on just 1 spoke alone, just with 1 drill. And in the meantime, we're actively working up the locations of these other spokes so that we can then commence drilling with permitting that we're going through at the moment. And as part of this, we're also doing regional geophysics, because this whole property is consolidated now. It all belongs to Mag Silver DT Mining. So for the first time, we're doing regional geophysics, which is magnetotellurics. Don't have time to go into exactly how that goes, but it's an excellent source of measuring time variations in magnetic and electrical sensors, and it's very good at finding deep-rooted structures. And it's these deep-rooted structures that so often become the conduits for mineralisation. So that helps us refine where we've got the spokes and helps us refine the position of the hubs. So when we come to drill them, we know we've got the best chances of success. So I'm going to hand back to Peter now to talk about Larder Lake, which is also a very exciting project and one that I was lucky to visit at the start of this year. Thanks, Peter.
Thank you, Lex. Good afternoon. It's been 2 years since I've done this, so I kind of hope I remember how to use something like this and how to give a talk. Anyway, we've moved. I got to figure out there it is. So from Juanicipio, 3,500 kilometers to the north-northeast to the Larder Lake area in the Abitibi. Maybe easier to explain that it's about 450 kilometers from where we're sitting right now instead of 3,500 kilometers away. This is a very exciting project that we acquired recently. It's in the Abitibi, which has produced over 200 million ounces of gold historically. The project gets us 9 kilometers of the Cadillac Larder Lake break, which is one of the most prolific sections of the major structures in the Abitibi. We lie between two mines, historic mines. Kirkland Lake, the district, has produced about 70 million ounces of gold. Kerr Addison Mine, 12 million. We have, on top of the 9 kilometers of the Cadillac Larder Lake break, we have over 20 kilometers of second and third order structures, and I'll give you a quick geology lesson on that in a minute. Good grades, better than 10 grams. Historic, shallow exploration focus. And I'm going to bring Nick up here in a minute, and he's going to explain how, among other things, he and Daniela have been exploring for several years with blinders on. They were told, focus shallow. Don't think about what's going on deep in an area where there's every reason to believe that where going deep is where things get good. So this thing is open at depth below 500 meters. We're unclipping the wings of this exploration team to give them their head, or it's also been explained as unleashing the Kraken, because they are really excited about how much they've been bottled up for the last few years. Excellent year-round infrastructure, and we're already permitted for drilling. So we can hit the ground running, and we are hitting the ground running. So people have asked about some of the details of the acquisition here. It cost us $20 million to acquire the company and all of its assets. So that represented about a little under 800,000 shares of MAG, so less than 1% of the company. Threw in another $3.5 million to cover their receivables. There's royalties on small pieces of the property between 0.5% and 1.5%. We can buy half of those royalties for $1 million. We're keeping their exploration team. That's great to get that kind of experience. They've been responsible for building excellent community relations, excellent relations with the First Nations neighbors, several of whom are here today, and I look forward to being introduced to them. And there's no material environmental legacy. So this really is stepping into a first-class project, as Mark describes it, for a song. So high potential, low entry cost, low maintenance cost, the kinds of things that MAG likes to look for. So here's where we are. We sit down here on the Cadillac Larder Lake break within the overall Abitibi province. That has produced 70% of Canada's gold production. So just like Fresnillo's where you want to be for silver, this is one of the places you'd really like to be for gold. Zooming in a little closer, shows who our neighbors are. Agnico Eagle borders us to the west. We have the Kerr Addison mine over here on the east. This is the principal Cadillac Larder Lake break. This is one of the second-order structures that's been identified with the Curvit property, where they've had several drill holes that have hit some very nice mineralization. Again, shallow. We'll see that the property has a lot more potential than this. Again, just a little more detail on that. So most of the mines in the Abitibi actually turn out to be on what we call second and third order structures. They're related to these big regional first order structures, but most of the mineralization is on these splays that come off these big regional structures. In our case, what's unique, I've been signed out, is that with the exception here on the Kirkland Lake Cadillac Break, there's mineralization on the first order structure as well. So we get all three of the major structural environments in this area that we can work on simultaneously. So I'm talking geo jargon to a lot of you. What is a first, second, and third order structure? So the first order structure is, and of course I hit the wrong button. Would you put that back for me, one, please? I guess that's not possible. It's the red one? Oh, okay, there we go. So the first order structure is this big regional structure. Those tend to be tight. They tend to be closed, so the fluids don't move well through them, and they tend to get pushed out into the second and third order structures, which splay off of that first order structure. That's what makes the Cadillac Larder Lake break atypical, is that the mineralization as known, the big mineralization known to date, is on the first order, but there's also mineralization on the second and third. So this dramatically expands the exploration potential here. And here's just a sandbox shearing model that geologists have done in the lab, just to show you how you can recognize these patterns even in your sandbox by having a right lateral shear. In this particular case, there's the first order structure, and then these are all the second and third order structures. So in our area, the focus has been on the first order, and most of these have either not been recognized, looked for, or explored. So that's some of the things that Nate and Daniela are very eager to start getting some drill holes into, except that we have phenomenal targets on the first order structure. Touch first. So when you look around, what attracted MAG to this play? People go, oh, you bought this little resource that existed on the property. It's low grade, it's small. What attracted us is the upside potential. When you look around the region, the big mines in this region don't get good until you get deeper than 600 plus meters. Most of the drilling done here has been shallower than 500 meters. So we're looking around and going, most of the elephants are hiding out deep. People have been hunting, but they're aiming too high. We gotta ratchet things down, and we have wide open potential. This is the resource that's been blocked out up here, but these chutes that have nicely defined plunging chutes and chutes within them are wide open here at depth. And, you know, our next door neighbor right over here keeps on going substantially deeper than really has been explored in our piece of the belt. And then, you know, when you look around, wide open potential. 85% of the drilling is concentrated in this area right down here. Here's Kirvit that I mentioned. Here's an area called Swansea, which is also right on the main break, just to the west. Very few holes, shallow. Nate is just waiting for the ground to freeze so he can get back and drill there next summer. So of the 3,300 hectares that we have on this property, 80% of it is untouched by drilling, and most of that is just these few scattered short holes sitting out here. And you don't have to be a geologist to recognize these big ripping linear features coming through, all of which we believe, or some of which we believe, represent additional second and third order structures. So I'm going to bring Nate up here, but first I'm going to introduce him quickly. He's got 4.5 years of experience on this Larder Gold property, basically working with his hands tied behind his back, conceptually, in terms of where he had to focus. He's got over 15 years experience in the business. His bachelor's is out of Laurentian, so he knows the neighborhood, he knows the people. He's working with Daniela, who is also here with us today. She's been on the project for 3.5 years with him. 7 years experience out of the University of Ottawa. which I like because my dad was born in Ottawa, so I like that aspect of things. And with that, I'm going to introduce you here to Nate Tribble. Here you go. Have fun. Break a leg, as they say in the theater.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Peter. That was excellent little view into the Larder Lake project, which we're really excited to explore. And like Peter said, our wings are being unclipped. We're going to explore what we think is the best part of the project, and that's deep. We know the region gets really good deep. We've never had the ability or the funding or the capital or the flexibility to do it. We now have that. So we're really, really looking forward to exploring deep. The images you see above are just some of the aspects that we have. You know, we're a tight group. We love our dogs. There's some core there. So this is all part of the family. This is what you're going to see moving forward from the Larder project. So some of the relationships that we've built through the last 4.5 years have not just been excellent from the local communities, but also the First Nations. We've built an excellent relationship with both Waugashig, which is now Abitibi, and Matachewan. So we look forward to continuing those relationships and keeping them positive. We know with working with Megaw that their CSR is a high priority, and we really look forward to continue working with you guys because we're really excited about it, and we're going to continue with our early exploration activities. And we'll keep moving the needle and moving forward with you guys, and we appreciate it. So what attracts me? I actually had the flexibility of working on this project in 2013. I was working for a company called Kerr Mines. I was working underground at the Armistice mine that you see here. And we had a JV with Goldfields on this project, so I had a little taste of the project. Why did I like it? I love the rocks. This region is so interesting because the Cadillac Larder Lake Break runs pretty much from Kirkland Lake. You can even go farther west if you want, all the way through Quebec to past Val-d'Or, and there's so much gold production there. And we have not been able to drill the holes that we've wanted to drill. We've only been stuck drilling the upper echelon of what we see as a really, really opportunistic potential here. There's so much potential at depth. The average drill holes on our property are 435 meters. We have over 300,000 meters of drilling, and our average drill depth is 435 meters. We haven't even tested the lower echelon, which we think is going to bring us, the best bang for our buck. We know the region, we know everything gets better at depth, and we know that all these systems tend to dilate and get bigger, thicker, and higher grade as you get deeper. Kerr-Addison's an excellent example. You can drive there in 7 minutes from our deposit, and it went down to almost 2 kilometers. So this is just a great area to be in. The geology's there. We're just excited to start drilling deep. So Peter alluded to this slide a bit. This is a Lidar Survey for context in the background. It's essentially a remote sensing tool that we use to detect structural complexities, as well as, for me, I really like it because I know I can send my geos out somewhere where there's going to be rock and not a swamp, and they come back with an empty bag, because that bothers me. So you can see there's lots of structural complexities. You can really see these linear features, like Peter said. To the untrained eye, you can just see all sorts of structural complexities. We're looking for that first order structure. We know it runs through here. That's the Cadillac Larder Lake Break. We know that. That's there. That's fine. Look at all these other ones that we have not even tested. We haven't even been out there to do it because we've been so bound to the press releases. The junior market's a tough space, so we had to raise the money, spend it, drill, put out a press release, do it. But now we have the flexibility to go out and do the true geology that me and Danielle have been looking forward to do for years. So we're really excited to get out there, test these second orders, test the third order, drill deep at Curvit. Curvit's something excellent that we picked up off of Tech right when we got the project. And we've only tested the upper part of it. In 2 years, we found 3 different types of gold mineralization. We found shear-hosted, intrusion-related, which is very similar to what we're seeing at Agnico Eagle's Upper Beaver deposit, and conglomerate-hosted mineralization. So we have 3 different types of mineralization up there that have just we haven't even had the time to even digest the information because we've been so hyper-focused on drilling this out. As you can see, the drill density is extreme on the resource area. Now, before I move on, I want to allude that this is also part of the first order structure. This is what we call the Swansea Zone. It's about 3.5 kilometers of Cadillac Larder Lake Break, completely favorable rock units. It checks a lot of our boxes. It's only seen 19,000 meters of drilling, 1 drill hole below the 500-meter mark, whereas over here, 350,000 meters of drilling right here in the upper 500 meters. So we have so much more potential to go at depth. The greenfield is going to pick up. I think we have a lot of potential here to kind of move the needle and start looking at some different structures in the area. So I'm going to take you through a couple slides here to show you what it looks like when you start to trim out the different level cuts on the property. So this is the block model that we have, and one of the really intriguing things I'm sure you've all noticed right away is look at the grade distribution at the Bear deposit. So it's the Fernland, Chamanis, and Bear, for reference. It gets better and better and better as we get deeper. So we haven't even really been down here yet. This whole level hasn't even been explored. This level is barely touched. So you can see the drill distribution has been extreme up here. The average drill hole is below 500 meters, so we really want to start exploring that at depth. This is what it looks like when you trim off that 500 meters. So you can really see already there's been minimal exploration below that 500 meter mark. And if you do it again, there's just no exploration down there. And some of our best hits on the property occur down here. 44 grams over 8 meters. I mean, that's going to move the needle. That's an excellent intercept, has not been followed up. So these are things that we're going to start doing as we move forward. It's a fun schematic that me and Peter came up with because though we've done a lot of drilling in the upper 400 meters, that's given us so much good data. We need to use that data moving forward. What that data has given us is the plunge lines. We understand the geometry of these things now. Now we know which way to chase them. Everything has somewhat of a steeply dipping south, easterly, or north, depending where you are in the Cadillac break, because it does tend to kind of fold back and forth between an anticline and a syncline. But we do know it's steeply dipping to the southeast, so we just need to chase those plunge lines at depth. My previous path that we took was take the plunge lines and chase them up, because that's cheap, easy drilling and good results. And we did that, and we had some excellent hits. One of our best hits up here was 85 grams over 3 meters at 99 meters downhole, right near surface. So we've had excellent success chasing it up. Now it's time to chase it down. So that's what we're going to be doing here in the near future. It's a busy slide, but what I want you to really understand from the slide, and the big takeaways, is the geology, the structures, and the two main zones that we're really focused on right now, outside of all the fun blue sky stuff that we're going to get to. This is the resource area. So this is the Fernland deposit. This is the Chamanis, which has an old head frame and some underground infrastructure. And this is the Bear. The geology on the property, the Cadillac break for us, is an ultramafic host. It's a corridor. It's kind of a perfect, brittle, ductile, perfect conduit for gold mineralization hydrothermal fluids. And on either side of that, you have a volcanic, foliatic type of volcanic host. So between those three rock types, we call it the north and the south volcanics, those are our mineralized horizons. So we're not looking at a single shear zone or a single vein. We're looking at multiple mineralized horizons within these rock types. Now, the really fun thing about this is that we know for a fact that this trends onto the Swansea Zone that has seen minimal drilling, especially at depth. The deepest hole is only 700 meters, significant grades at depth, zero follow-up. We have an IP survey done that has identified 3 linear features that follow the east-west trend along the Cadillac break. We've done some AI work that's utilized a lot of data because we found that we had so much data, why not try and stay with the curve and kind of go ahead with that, and it's identified a whole bunch of new targets as well. So the Swansea Zone is probably our most fun and one of our highest priorities to move forward to. It is a seasonal target. We can only drill it in the winter. It's swampy. So we will be tackling this, I would say, in January of next year. But moving forward in the near future, we will be drilling deep, deep, deep at these 3 deposits here. Outside of that, we have about a kilometer, probably 900 meters, maybe a kilometer, of untested Cadillac break moving to the edge of our property this way. So on the first order structures that Peter was talking about, we have 9 kilometers of it, and we've only explored half that. We know the grades are good, and when we know it continues at depth, there are no faults that cut it off, so we're really looking forward to drilling at depth. Outside of the first order structure, we have the second splay. So this is what we were calling the second splay. So it comes off the main Cadillac break, underexplored, 0 drill holes, 0 exploration, and then up at the top up here where Curvit is, we're thinking that's a third order structure. So we have all the necessary pieces to make this a home run. We just need to move it forward. This is the Swansea Zone. So you're looking at a magnetic signature here. On our property, the ultramafics, they light up like a Christmas tree. And this is about a 3-kilometer high. So we're thinking this is the magnetic high of the ultramafics, which is the Cadillac corridor. That's good. That's what we need to see. So that box has been checked. We have the rock types, the magnetic signature, the IP anomaly, historical gold drilling. So this zone and this target has been ready to drill for years, and we're really, really excited to get to it. Moving forward, if you go to the top part of our property, onto what we're calling a third order structure, we have a project that is very similar to Agnico's Upper Beaver deposit. Agnico Eagle has their Upper Beaver, it's almost approaching, I want to say, 1,500 meters. They're getting deep, it's getting better. This is what we think we have here. We've only scratched the surface, literally scratched the surface. We've done a great channel sampling. We've had excellent high grade on surface, 16 grams over a 6 kilogram channel sample, which most of our 1 meter core samples are around 2 kilograms, so you could call it a 3 meter intersection if you wanted to. Lots of good fun grades in the area and the right rock types and the right structures. So this is something that we're looking forward to drilling deeper, because we also only drilled shallow at this area as well. So it's something we're looking forward to kind of developing out and doing some more geophysical surveys on in the near future. So what's next outside of the obvious? We know we have these structures. We know we have Curvette. We have so much data on the property that we just haven't been able to utilize. So our Greenfields exploration program, we're going to utilize all the soils, all the rock sampling that we haven't even been able to really follow up on. We have a unit that runs through here, which we like to call the long conglomerate. It's the exact same geochemically as the one that we're getting success up here at Curvette, and it has the best linear soil features as well as rock features. This is something we're going to be following up in the near future. We're going to be doing some IP surveys because that worked really well for us at Curvette. But this right here is one of the most intriguing features on the property. The cyanide intrusion that we have on our property is very similar to what we're seeing at Agnico Eagle, and it's how we discovered Curvette. Upper Beaver sits right here. We're not far. We're just as far from Upper Beaver than we are from our own mine. This is a big target that we need to follow up on, so we're going to be following up on that as well. There's a few more inside here, which I like to call X marks the spot. So there's lots of fun targets that we still have to follow up on that we just haven't gotten the liberty to do. So what data do we have to work with to follow up on these targets? Here's the Lidar Survey again. It's really nice because, and we did this down to 1 meter, so it's very detailed. You can see all the structural complexities. You can actually see the Cadillac break kind of coming through here. This is the long conglomerate. Curvette sits in this beautiful diamond Rydell shape, so you get these en-echelon veins kind of coming in the middle of them. And then everything else in here hasn't been looked at. So there's lots of features that we want to follow up on. As you can see, when you overlay this with this, some of these features are very interesting. Where this mag high rolls back, this fold nose here has been something on our minds for years. So just more greenfields exploration, more upside for the project. So where to next and why? So we've been talking a lot about these structures. Here's the first order structure right through here. This is the Cadillac break. We believe these are second, as well as Curvette could be a second or third. We haven't decided yet. And this big intrusion here is our third structure. We have almost 20 kilometers of strike of favorable structures in the Abitibi. This could blow the lid off this project if we can continue moving forward and really start to exploit some of these zones in the right direction as well as down plunge. So how are we going to do it? We're going to track the mineralization on the first order structure. We're going to track it at depth. We're going to follow up on all of our plunge lines that we've been identified already. We're going to seek all the different types of mineralization on the 3.5 kilometers of the Swansea Zone. We're going to continue working at Curvette, and we're going to try and find more. I feel that this area right here just hasn't had that love that it needs to have. So these are some of the areas that you'll start to see that we'll be working on, and hopefully get some positive news out of a bunch of these areas here. See the exploration plan this summer in a week. Drill deep. Super excited to drill deep. Cannot wait. One of the beautiful things about the project itself is the 3 high-grade deposits are on patents. We don't need to do permitting. We can drill it anytime, whenever we want. It's an excellent feature to have on the project. And the rest of the project does need to be permitted, but thanks to Rob and our excellent relationship with the First Nations, these things can be expedited in less than 45 days. It's been a really good relationship. It really helps accelerate the exploration for the project. So we're going to drill deep. We're going to map and sample all those targets that I showed you earlier. We're going to make sure that we start to keep pipeline targets in the project. We need to make sure we're going to go into the next one and the next one. So next summer we have another good one to go to. We're going to be doing some geophysical surveys, and in January we're going to be going to the Swansea Zone. So lots of work going on at the Larder project, but we're really looking forward to it. This is a drone image of the project, so this is the old head frame. One thing I forgot to mention is the infrastructure and the access is phenomenal. It's right on the Trans-Canada Highway. Larder Lake is right over here, a great little town. Valdor is this way in Miranda. Access is very easy. This is an old polishing pond that's thriving now, so our core field, our core shack. It's just a great place to be in the Abitibi.
How deep are you going?
Pardon me?
How deep?
For drilling?
Yeah.
As deep as we can go. I want to drill a 2-kilometer hole.
How many rigs do you have?
We have one. We have one rig. The deepest hole on the project, so vertically speaking, the deepest mineralized intercept we have is down at 1.3 kilometers, and it has no follow-up. The highest grade hit on the property is over 600 grams, so there's lots of high-grade potential, and these are all below the 500-meter mark that have not been followed up. So that will be the direction we'll be going. I'll drill as deep as they'll let me, to be honest. But I'll hand it over to George, and thank you.
All right, thank you, everybody. Just wrapping up. Project catalysts, obviously, we will continue the mineral process and make cash at Juanicipio. Looking forward to flicking the switch, getting those mills turning. Rest of the plant's ready to go. 85-90% nameplate by the end of the year is a very achievable target. And any day, more discoveries at Juanicipio. I mean, a constant theme here is Juanicipio, location, location, location. Best silver place in the world. Deer Trail sits on the Bingham Trend. One of 2 man-made structures you can see from the surface of the moon on Earth. Location, location, location. A lot of you people know me from before, and you know the Cadillac. Larder, one of the most prolific gold occurrences in the world. Location, location, location. What made us successful at Juanicipio, what will make us successful at Deer Trail and Larder Lake, is a different approach to geology. You've seen the Brain Trust today. They're world-class geologists. And we know how to drill deep holes. So watch the space. We're a good buy right now. So, well, not goodbye, we are a good buy right now. So before we say goodbye, I'd like to open it up for questions. Heiko, I'm going to repeat the question because I always get in trouble from Michael. I don't, and then you can't pick it up on the web.
It's nice to see names to the faces and faces to the names with the acquisitions, but it's good. I think it's good to broaden the idea here.
Yep.
One of your statements earlier was that you're making more money and you can't spend it all. Literally in this presentation, you've got a new CFO back there. Maybe also you could walk us a little bit through what you think shareholder returns could be. I mean, we seem to have a lower term plan here on the last three slides. Maybe at what point in time do you think people might see something?
Okay, so Heiko's question was, what are you going to do with all the money? Because, you know, we're going to be generating triple-digit millions of dollars from Juanicipio. We aren't an exploration company that goes out there and shotgun splatters the place and has 20 rigs and a few Hail Marys and see what happens. Well, Hail Marys that way for us. We are disciplined about how we explore, very technically driven, and that means your exploration spends are modest. So say we're making $150 million a year from Juanicipio. We'll be very lucky to spend 30 or 40 million a year on both of those properties. So that's going to enable us to build a cash reserve in the company. And very quickly, we want to start to bring money out of Mexico and then start to consider giving our shareholders a drink. Our shareholders have been loyal and stuck by us for years. Every time we've needed to fund this company, they've put their hands in their pockets, and we've got to where we are now. We are very motivated to return cash back to shareholders. A lot of us in MAG are shareholders as well, so we've got aligned interests there. So, I think we will be a handsome dividend payer. I believe that will be one of the future value creation curves for MAG, because that's going to bring in different investors. If you can show that you can consistently pay a very handsome dividend, I think that's going to be accretive to our share price. We also think about share buybacks, and we'll just not do anything until we know once we start we can do it long term. We don't want to go on off. But I think, Heiko, it's not a long time before we can start paying a dividend.
You're going to get this question sooner or later anyway, so I just have to be the first one asking questions. You got lucky in that all this building was done before we saw inflation numbers. Everything's my generation.
Yep.
That said, you're still, there's still capital expenditures needed while you operate this mine. What are you seeing? What are you seeing through labor force? Anything else that you think
Okay, Heiko's second question, and there's a limit of 3. Heiko's second question is, what's the effects of inflation? What are you seeing with labour in Mexico? There's inflation in Mexico like there is everywhere. We are fortunate that we have Fresnillo as the operator who have buying power. And so there is some limit, there is some containment of inflation just by virtue of a big company buying for 8 different mines. So there's some control, but there is cost escalation, particularly energy, consumables. There's been an outsourcing or a contracting rule change in Mexico, and that's been challenging for a number of companies who had contracted out all their underground mining, or the majority. We've been very fortunate at Juanicipio that we have transitioned from contract to our own underground development mining with full complement of people. Even some of the other Fresnillo mines are lagging in that. But Juanicipio, everyone likes a new toy. People want to work with something new, it's higher technology. We are faring very well in terms of the tightness of the labour market in Mexico. So, yeah, I'd like to say it was good planning, how we dodged, because we ordered the mills way ahead of schedule. Right? The mills have been sitting on the ground for 18 months, but it did lock us into prices that were a lot lower than if we're going to do it now. Going forward, the capital expenditure rates are quite modest. There'll be cost escalation in there in the near term. We do our best to minimise that, but fact of the matter is things are going up. Yes. He's done. Yeah.
Something you also mentioned earlier was that you're working on a technical report, an updated technical report.
Yep.
Can you give us any idea of the timing of the release of that?
Okay, so the question is, we mentioned we're working on an updated technical report. What's behind that? Our current technical report's dated 2017, which actually includes drilling to the end of 2016. So what we're doing now is taking drilling up to the end of 2021. We're generating a new resource. For the first time, we'll be generating reserves. And we'll be providing a operational update to an internal feasibility study that was done in the joint venture about 2.5 years ago. So we anticipate that report will be available probably fourth quarter of this year.
And separately, the grid connection imminent. Can you tell us, can you just give us a little bit more color on the steps that need to be boxed that need to be checked through the month of June? And then what does it look like once it's connected? Like, for example, you're running ore through Fresnillo and Salcedo mills. Does that mean you're going to have production right out of the Juanicipio mill after grid connection?
Right.
Will the other contributions to the other mills start to fall?
Okay, so the question was, tell us a bit more about the power connection, and once you get that power connection, what are you going to do with your mill in relationship to what you're doing going through the Fresnillo plants? So the The issue with the power connection was it was scheduled to be late last year, or maybe the first week of January this year, and there was a big reluctance from the regulator to take the major shutdown to do that tie-in, because we're going to black out communities that have hospitals, communities that have health facilities, those sort of things. So the regulator came back and said, we want to rejig this, and we want you to put in a different electrical distribution infrastructure. That means we don't have to take the big bang blackout to tie you in. So since January till just recently, that's been installed. It's now been tested and completed, right? And so now we're going through a number of weeks of testing. We have a protocol now where there will be a number of small blackouts, not one big blackout, which is why there's a lot more comfort about doing this connection. So once that happens, our mills start up. So the priority is to put Valdocones, Juanicipio mineralised material. Once we get those reserves, we can call it ore. But for now, it's mineralised material through our plant. It's a priority because our plant was designed particularly for that ore with today's technology. So we're going to get better cash flow than going through more dated plants, not specifically designed for our material. If we get to a point where we actually have more tonnes coming from the mine than what that plant will take, the door is open to continue or to recommence processing on the side to give us incremental cash flow. So you're going to have an ATM operating, and if we can mine enough tonnes, maybe you've got a side stream to that ATM, 2 ATMs. But the priority is our material through our plant. Any more questions? Yes, Ryan.
Just a quick follow-up on the dividend question. Can you just talk a little bit about like the mechanism of actually getting cash from the JV to make silver?
Sure.
So like a minimum cash balance or timing of those dividends?
Okay. Thanks, Ryan. Question from Ryan was going to talk a bit more about getting cash out of the joint venture and how that affects dividends. There's a criteria in Mexican corporate law about payment of dividends that you have to satisfy before you can do it. And it revolves around the amount of revenue you've had and the amount of tax you pay, essentially. And once you've satisfied a criteria of paying a minimum amount of tax, you can then do dividends. What we've done, Fresnillo and ourselves, is we've actually funded a portion of the build of Juanicipio with intercompany loans from our Mexican subs to the joint venture company. And they can be called any time. So once we are in a comfortable situation operationally and we have substantial amounts of cash in the joint venture, we will start repaying those loans back to the Fresnillo and the MAG subsidiaries in Mexico, and then we go through a Mexican tax SAT process, pay withholding tax, and bring that money back to Vancouver. So our intention is very soon to do a test run on that, right? Because the first time you're doing something in Mexico, sometimes it takes a little while, and so we want to prove that pipeline. And I think once that's proven, it's going to be pretty straightforward how to get initial cash out of the joint venture to MAG, and by then we would have satisfied the dividend criteria, and then it'll throw through that established process.
So
Kevin?
The updated life of mine plan study that you issued, will it include an expansion case in there or not?
So a question from Kevin about are you going to include an expansion case in the new technical report, right? That's a good question. I didn't point it out in the pictures and the videos, but if you remember where the plant was, you'll see there's an identical footprint next to it. And the intention has always been, we'll put the second plant there. This side stream processing has been very successful. And I think we have to sit down together with Fresnillo and work out what's the best deployment use of capital here. Is it to build a second plant, or is it to put a second plant's worth through existing facilities? Okay? And maybe that footprint is for the Sessantoni material when he hits that, which hopefully soon. So the success of this side stream processing has made us think about the timing of an expansion case, because the project's actually expanded already if we want it. Trevor.
So is capacity over at Salcedo potentially expected to increase in terms of its availability to do more of your side stream as time goes on?
I think there's a limit to that, all right? But there is a gap at the moment. And from a Fresnillo perspective, I mean, if you're looking at your business case, you're replacing 180 gram per tonne material with 600. Maybe gives you a chance to catch up underground if you wind that back and put the good stuff through. So we've talked conceptually with the partner on this, but we've got to harden it up once we get this running. Like, our focus right now is flick that switch, let's get this going, let's see what it'll do, let's look at the mine plan, let's look at what we can get out of that, and then what's the best value case to do with extra tonnes.
You mentioned Sessantoni. When do we expect that you might be able to actually do some drilling and results from there? Okay, so the question was about Sessantoni. We started drilling there February this year, so we've got one hole. We're on the second hole now. I'd say maybe talking about results here Q4 of this year. Yeah. And then we're allowed 3? Yeah. So on the hub and spoke at Deer Trail, you talk about you're kind of only working the one spoke where you're looking at the targeting, plus you've got the old historic Deer Trail mine, and then you had those 2 large porphyry centers, which are kind of your 2 hubs. Are there other kind of significant historic operations along that margin that help to also zero you in on other potential spokes?
Yeah, there are actually. There's a number of workings up in the northwest area, in the Bullion Canyon area, and then you've also got something right down to the south where there's some very old workings that I can't even find a map on. They were done in the very early 1900s, but there's over 800 metres of workings there underground that we can't actually access because they've caved in, but there was significant work done there in the past. So we want to really explore those out, and that is on one of my spokes to test.
And so, is it that same kind of mineralisation that you would expect, like the Deer Trail stuff?
Yes, it's all sort of manto related, definitely.
One of the real opportunities at Deer Trail is not just the potential geological endowment, but it's the fact that, I guess, the first time in 100 years, one set of brains are looking at the whole area. By consolidating that land position, it's given us a chance to take a big picture approach to this. And this is big picture, this is elephant country. But you need to have the big picture approach, and no one's been able to do that in the past. All right, no more questions, that's good. Probably 1 o'clock meetings people are going to get to. So thank you, everybody. I appreciate your time, and I hope you enjoyed it.